Hey makers, today I'm going to show you a Meshmixer session, and this is from the video that I did on how to 3D print your head. I'm going to do the walkthrough on combining my head, that is the output from the Bellis 3D scanning app, with the Superman bust that I found on Thingiverse. So you ready? Let's get started. Let's make 3D. Okay, here we are in Autodesk Meshmixer. I'm going to import the Superman bust that I got from Thingiverse. So you can position this guy by pressing on the center, move him around like that, and then to rotate you right click on the right mouse button. Now I'm going to import the head that I got as output from the Bellis 3D app. It asks you if you want to append this to the existing scene, or if you want Meshmixer to try to fix it, and you just say yes. And now when you have more than one object in the scene, you get this object browser, and you can rename these. So just to keep things straight, I'm going to call this, you double click on it, Superman Original, and I'm going to call this Head Original. Now you can select the objects in the objects browser too, and you can also copy the objects down here with this little icon here. You can also delete objects. So I've got my head selected. I'm going to rotate it this way with the right mouse button. I'm going to go into Edit, Transform. Now I get these transform controls here. This red control allows you to rotate, and you can scale as well. I'm going to set this at 35%, but you want to make sure you have uniform scaling here. And then you just modify one of these X, Y, or Z scales. I'm going to set this at 35%. It's 0.35. Now I'm going to position my head with Superman's head. Right click to rotate. Actually, I'm going to line up the back of the neck first. Let's do this. Right click to rotate. To zoom in, I'm using the mouse wheel. Now I'm clicking on the mouse wheel to position down. I'm going to center this. Try to position the nose and the brow and the eyes. Rotate. I've got a crooked nose. Look at that. I broke it a few times. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's line this up a little bit better. There we go. I hit the enter key there. Now I'm going to do a plane cut on the Superman bust, because I'm going to cut off his head and leave just my head. So with these little eyeball icons here, you can make things, if you click on the eyeball icon, you make that item disappear. So I just made my head disappear by doing that. I'm going to need my head there to position the plane to do the cut. So I'm going to go to Edit, Plane Cut, and then I'm going to turn off my head just for a minute. I'm going to position this plane. Now the shadow here is what you're going to cut off. So I need to rotate this plane, so I'm cutting off the head. I'm going to cut him off in the neck. Now I'm going to make my head visible so I can see where to position this plane for the cut. I want the neck to go up into my head. Maybe a little more. I'm going to rotate the plane a little bit. I want the neck to meet where my head is. So I'm just checking either side, this part here where the neck meets. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to do the cut. I'm going to hide my head for a minute. Now you can see where the cut's going to go. I'm going to hit the Enter key to do the cut. Let's see how my head looks against that. His chin's protruding there. I'm going to hide my head and I'm going to cut off his chin. Actually, I'm going to do a select. I've got the Superman bust selected. I'm going to do a select. And now you can draw a line. I want this area deleted, and then I want this part of the chin deleted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around that to select it. Now I'm going to hide my head again and you'll be able to see what's selected. Now to delete that, I just hit delete. That's to delete the selection. I'm hitting the delete key. That leaves me with a shell with holes in it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make my head visible. Oh, there's a little part there I want to delete. Let me delete that. I've got the Superman bust selected again. I'm going to do a select. I'm going to draw a little line around that. Let's select a little bit too much. So I'm going to do a select, but I'm going to use the brush this time. You can see the brush size there. I'm just going to select this. And then I'm going to hit delete. Now, since this is a shell, I'm going to hide my head again. This is a shell with holes in it. I'm going to do a edit, make solid. And you want the accuracy to be high, so I'm just going to bump these up. Mesh density to be high. And it gives you a preview of what it looks like. Let's update that. So I'm doing an update. I bumped up those parameters, and I'm doing an update to see what the preview is going to look like, because I don't know if you noticed, but the Superman emblem on his chest wasn't very well defined. So when I bumped up those two parameters, I'm going to get a more defined resolution. And it's going to be especially noticeable on the chest where the Superman emblem is. I'm going to speed this part up and come back. All right, so here we are. You can see how much more defined that is. If you rewind, you'll be able to see the difference. But with this mesh density up and this solid accuracy all the way up, I've got a nice defined chest plate here. So now, anytime you do a make solid, well, first of all, this is a preview, so I have to hit accept here. There we go. Now we have the solid here. I'm going to call this Superman solid. And anytime you make a solid, you want to do an analysis on it with the inspector. So go to analysis, inspector, and then I'm going to leave the default at 0.01 millimeter and just do an auto repair. And now we want to make sure this is what we want. It looks pretty good. So now we don't need this original Superman. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select that, and I'm going to hit the, well, you can use this trash can here, or you can use the delete key. So I'm going to do the trash can. There, now we have the Superman solid and the original head. I'm going to make my head visible. Just take a look. I have this little piece sticking out. I can smooth that out with a sculpt brush. I'm going to select the piece that's sticking out as part of the Superman bust. So I'm going to select the Superman bust, go to sculpt, and then I'm going to choose this flatten brush here. And that's a good size to flatten that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten that by, I'm doing a right mouse click and I'm flattening that out. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so my original head that I brought in is a solid. The Superman's a solid. So I can combine these. And I'm going to do that by doing edit. I'm going to select them first. So I'm selecting my head, and I'm going to hit the shift key. I'm going to select the bust. So I have them both selected. And now I'm going to do this combine menu or this transform menu comes up, or edit, sorry. And this edit menu comes up, and you want to select combine here. Now my head and Superman's bust have been combined. Now it's all one piece. Now I want to change my hair. I want my hair to look more like Superman's hair. And you can see the Bellis 3D app kind of just filled this in back here because this part wasn't scanned. It scanned all the way back to here, but it didn't scan the back of my head. So I'm going to put Superman's hair back there. And I want a little bit of tufted hair right here. So I'm going to do that. And to do that, I'm going to bring in the Superman bust again. I'm going to import. Okay, now I have the Superman bust imported again. It's sitting on top of everything. I'm going to rename this. Double click. Superman hair is what I'm going to call this. And I'm going to move it aside just so we can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to select. I'm going to do it. Edit, transform. I have the Superman hair selected. I'm going to move this out. Okay, so I'm going to do a plane cut on Superman's head here. I'm going to do an edit, plane cut. I've got Superman selected. Hit the enter key. I'm going to select some areas here for cleanup, so I'm going to get rid of this here and just some areas around the hair and get rid of the ear. So I'm going to select this with the brush tool. Hit the delete key. Now on the selections, when you click and drag off of the object, you can draw a line like I just did to do a cut along that line. I don't like that. I'm going to clear this selection. I'll do the front first. need a smaller brush. Okay, delete key. I'm gonna, just to make sure, I'm gonna draw a line with the select tool around this thing. See if I can get rid of that. There we go. Now I've got the hair. I'm going to move this. I need to scale it. I've got uniform scaling turned on. I'm going to scale this to 1.08. Which is 108%. Okay, that looks pretty good. I can I'm going to combine these, but I can sculpt some lines in here after they're combined and kind of match this. So I'm not going to. I'll give you an example on how you can do that, but I'm not going to do the entire thing in this video. So hit enter after to apply the transformation. Now I'm going to select both with holding down the shift key. I'm selecting both. I'm going to do an edit. Okay, it selected edit for me. Now I'm going to do a combine. Now you see over here it combined everything. Now we got one piece. And you can see the hair is still a shell. So what I need to do is I'm going to make a solid out of this thing. So edit, make solid. And it's going to repair all those holes. You have to make a solid out of things in order to 3D print them. Okay, see that the detail didn't turn out on that, so I have to bump these up. Solid accuracy, mesh density, and then update. This is actually just a preview. So where it closed these holes, it kind of filled in where those holes were. This actually looks really good. But I'm going to have to fix this part. So select delete. Now I'm going to do a make solid again on it so it fills the hole. Bump these up. That's just a preview. Update it. Now sometimes the object won't show up after you do the update when it goes through all that progress dialog, and you have to click the mouse button. That's what I did. So now I'm going to use the sculpt tool. Oh, this was a preview. I need to accept it. I got the solid in the original that I was working with, deleting the original. And now I'm going to use the sculpting tool. Going to select that. Use the sculpting tool again. And I'm going to indent it with a bigger tool this time. So I'm pushing the control button, left mouse button. There we go. Now if I hold down the control button, I can bring this out a little bit. So I'm holding down. Now if I just do the left mouse button, I can pull this out. So you can play with that to make it more perfect. All right, so, oh, and the other thing you can do, like I mentioned before, is go in here and I'm pushing, and you can draw lines in here. I'm going to push the control button. Increase the strength on this. And you can push and pull in here. Control button to push the material in. No control button to pull material out. And you can just work on the hair that way. So there you have it. And then to export this out, you want to make sure you have solid here. For 3D printing, you want to make sure you have it converted to a solid. And like I said, once you fill in holes from a shell, or you have a shell, you have to do a make solid. And then for 3D printing, you just do a file export. And by default, it exports as an STL file. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, go make 3D.